The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight into dental school, conversations with dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Haley Schultz. Let's get into this week's episode. Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily and then distribute it everywhere and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters. Here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right away from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify, but also everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available, and you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Did I mention it is totally free, no catch? I've been using Spotify for Podcasters since the very beginning of my show, and now we're nearing our 200th episode, so I can definitely say it's an easy platform, and I've really loved using it. So be sure to download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get right into the episode this week. As I said in the intro, we're going to be talking about everything that I wish I knew as an undergrad, in my case, pre-dental student. So this is actually my most popular video on YouTube. It has 40,000 views. And I was just rewatching it because I wanted to share some of those tips in this episode of my podcast too, and oh man, is it so cringy to me. I just am so monotone, and it's interesting. I've definitely progressed as a speaker, presenter person, but I'm going to talk about those few things in this episode, and then the rest of it's going to be things that are pre-dental, I suppose, but more so just about life in general and being your best self and taking care of yourself. Because in reality, at this point in undergrad, you're just getting started on a long road of life as eventually working as a dentist. And you don't want to get burnt out now, and you want to be making useful steps towards benefiting your future self. So you want to be building good habits, working on being your best self, and building up skills that are going to carry you to live a happy and healthy and successful, whatever definition you have for successful life. So we're going to start with the tips that I shared in that video, and then the next segment is going to be things that I was thinking myself, but also I asked fellow dental students on Instagram, my friends from there, from different schools, to give me some of their ideas. So that's going to be part 2 of this episode. We're going to start with something that is oh so fun. Time management, studying, homework, tests. That's the first thing I want to talk about, is your studying skills in undergrad and how they can help you or hurt you when it comes to progressing to getting into dental school and getting through dental school. So it's no secret that you need a good or good enough GPA to get into dental school, and that's the reason a lot of people end up doing post-bac master programs to enhance their application and then get into dental school. But if you can figure out a way to make yourself focused and motivated with school, I think you're going to be a lot more relaxed when it comes to application time, because you'll be more confident in your skills. And if you figure out how you like to study in undergrad, it'll help you a lot with those core science classes in dental school. So you're going to be managing a lot at once now, and then in dental school it's going to be similar and different at the same time. So you're going to have exams, group projects, written projects, lab work, as in clinical dentistry lab work, and quizzes and homework all at the same time. So it's a lot to think about, but let your undergrad classes prepare you for that. Try not to be annoyed with writing assignments or group projects, because that still happens in dental school to some extent. So learn how to work in a team, learn how to delegate tasks, learn what kind of tasks you're good at, and really lean into that and improve in the areas that maybe you're less confident in, because eventually you're going to have to do it all yourself. And sometimes it'll be group work, but a lot of times it's going to be all on you. So keep working to figure out your best ways to study and what you like and don't like, and then that can help you with some of those basic sciences once you start dental school. In terms of majors and classes, we can talk about that for a little bit. You can be any major. That's something to keep in mind. You can study any subject matter in undergrad and get a bachelor's in anything and apply to dental school as long as you have completed the prerequisite classes for the different schools you're applying to. And keep in mind that prerequisite classes are going to be different at every single dental school. There's going to be some overlap, but they are not the same everywhere. So you might be able to apply to these 5 schools, but the 6th one you can't unless you took microbiology, for example. And I think it is, in my opinion, the most cost-effective and logical thing to have some kind of science major, because then you're taking the prerequisite classes as part of your degree requirements and you're not spending money on extra classes that you don't need for your major. So that's kind of why I think that makes sense. And then you can supplement with classes that you enjoy or classes for a minor. I don't think it's necessary to get a fancy minor or to double major or something unless you really want to. I took a minor that was kind of easy and interesting to me in entrepreneurship, and that allowed me to make my semesters a little less stressful. So that's the next tip I want to share, is to build your semesters to try to be as manageable as possible. For example, I tried to make the semester that I was taking biochemistry to be more light. I only had one other science class. I had a writing history class and one of the marketing classes for my minor. So I could really lean in and spend all of my free time and all my study time pretty much on biochem, because my dental school currently is one that looks pretty highly on how you did in biochem to see if you can handle the rigor of dental school. And I knew that, so I wanted to make sure I did well. In my opinion, and from my application cycle way back when, it didn't really matter if I wasn't full-time, quote unquote, because I was taking 12 to 15 credits every semester. I wasn't taking like 15 to 18. I never took more than 15, and it was fine. I just graduated on time by taking summer classes to balance that out. And for me, it was more beneficial to make strategic semester schedules and do well and get a higher GPA than take a bunch of classes at once to show that I could handle a workload, but then my GPA would be a little bit lower. Wouldn't have been worth it. Or get a high GPA but be burnt out and miserable also was not really worth it. So how can you figure all that out? In my case, my pre-dental advisor was fairly helpful. They didn't know a ton about dental school. They were just pre-health in general, I should be more specific. So med, PA, nursing, dental, they kind of did it all. So they weren't perfect, but they at least helped me find the prerequisites for all the schools and then make a 4-year plan, starting freshman year of undergrad through graduation, all the different courses I had to take for my biology major, where I could fit in other classes, what kind of minors I could pursue, when I could take those classes. And at most schools, I believe certain classes are only offered certain times of the year. So it's really beneficial to just sit down and see how it's all going to work out and have a plan. Then you don't need to stress each time that it comes to sign up for classes, because you already know what you're taking and what's available when. And you can do yourself an even bigger favor if you add into there when you're going to get your letters of rec, when you're going to take your DAT, when you're going to study for your DAT, when you're going to write your personal statement, if you're going to do any internships, externships, start dental assisting, do your dental shadowing, how many hours you want to get done each semester, or if you're going to do it over a break, or if you're going to start doing research in a lab, or if you're going to go on a study abroad. Like, I put everything in there, not just the classes, because it kept me at least understanding what my timeline was going to look like. And in terms of classes, I do want to say, in my opinion, it's helpful to wait to take physics until senior year, because it might be a prereq for some schools, but for me, that was the most challenging science class I had to take as a bio major, and I did pretty poor in it. And I wish it wasn't on my application when I applied to dental school, because I applied at the start of my senior year. So if I would have taken them senior year, those grades wouldn't go in until I was already accepted, so it wouldn't have mattered so much. And I did poorly in the first one, and then took physics 2 at the end of senior year. So only the first one went on my transcript and my application anyways, but it's not on the DAT, so I would say don't worry about it, even if it's out of the norm to take it later. I say take it later if it's something that challenges you, like it did for me, and that's something I wish I did different with my classes, but that's really the only thing that I would have changed looking back. And I know I'm mentioning knowing your timeline, following a timeline. One of the biggest things I actually want to emphasize, and it might sound contradictory, is everyone has their own timeline. And sometimes I get people asking for my course schedule, which I'll happily share with them, or whatever. Or when did I take the DAT, which was after my sophomore year. Like, that worked for me. But I have peers that didn't work for, and they did poorly, and they ended up having to take it later or take a gap year. Like, everyone's on their own timeline, but flash forward a few years, we're all in dental school. We might be in different years, but everyone makes it through. So if you're going through something or you have some family situation, personal situation, things going on, and it's just not working out the timeline you thought you'd have, or you really didn't want to take a gap year, but it's looking like you might, there's nothing wrong with that. You're going to have your entire life to work, and one day you will be a dentist, and then you're going to work till you retire. You don't need to rush into something if it doesn't feel right, or if you have too many things holding you back, or you have something that might become a problem in your personal life or for your physical health. Like, you can take things a little slower and still get into dental school. So let me be giving you tips and tricks that some will work for you and some won't. Don't beat yourself up if you aren't following the same exact path that I did, because mine is specifically mine and no one's is going to be just like mine, and yours is going to be unique to you and still equally great and unique and impressive to admissions. So I always like to add that in these kind of pre-dental episodes, because I know comparison can be really, really, really stressful and toxic when it comes to the pre-dental space. And that's one of the biggest things I want to emphasize in this episode, is try to avoid comparison between like dental influencers, people you look up to, and yourself, and then also your peers, people in your like pre-dental societies, pre-dental clubs, because you have something that they don't, they have something that you don't, and that's just how life is in all regards when you're applying for jobs in the future. Like, it never goes away. So trying to really lean into your own strengths, your own interests, your own passions, do more of that, get better at that, continue improving in your own stuff. And that's really going to be what gets you into dental school and what makes you shine and what makes you a unique candidate to add to their class profile, because they don't want 100 of the exact same student. They want a diverse group of people with unique interests and passions and experiences and future goals as the way they want to practice dentistry, because that is what makes them a strong class. So that's something I kind of wish I knew. I just tried to do like a cookie cutter approach, and it did work out, I guess, but I just want to say it's not necessary in any regard. Like, statistics and everything are there for a reason. You want to aim for that DAT, that GPA. You got to get the required classes, required shadowing, required letters of rec, but there's so much flexibility between those things that's going to look so different. So I hope that makes sense. And that kind of leads into the next thing I want to talk about, which is your extracurriculars and your volunteering. So you want to have some kind of leadership. You want to have some kind of volunteering. You want to have something that is pushing you outside of your comfort zone and making you grow and become a better person. And you want to do those things consistently and put time into them that's actually going to mean something on your application. 1 or 2 hours of something doesn't really mean anything, but 4 hours every month, or once a week for 1 hour, or one weekend a month for several hours. Something like that is going to make more of a difference. Or if you do something for a whole semester instead of just 1 month, is also really going to make a difference. So I'm not going to give specific examples, because I want you to think about what you enjoy and what you're passionate about, and find out a way you can do more of that, whether it is leadership in a student organization, or through a job, or through volunteering, or through research. There's so many different ways you can pursue stuff that you love. But one thing I do want to encourage you to do somehow is to improve your communication skills, your public speaking skills, your confidence in that way, because that's something that every dentist needs. Some people are better at it than others, and some people do more of it than others in the way they practice dentistry. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to connect with people, have basic small talk, and kind of sell something, pitch something, explain something, teach. These are all things you need to be able to do. So if that doesn't come naturally to you, which it really wasn't comfortable for me as an undergrad student to talk to adults, I wasn't really great at small talk, or at least I didn't feel confident doing it. And I've gotten a lot better at that, obviously. So I would say ways to do that is going to mock interviews, talking to people after a club meeting. If you have like a presenter that's a dentist, going up, just introducing yourself, putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation can really help a lot. Getting a job that forces you to be uncomfortable, to talk to people, to sell something, like the service industry, or I was a campus tour guide, something like that you're doing on a consistent basis, not just 1 or 2 times again during undergrad. I think is a skill that pretty much everyone going into dentistry needs, and the sooner you work on that, the better. And our last thing for this first segment is look into ways to lower your cost of education. So now apply for scholarships for undergrad, apply for scholarships for dental school. There are two main programs that pay for your dental school and you repay them with service as a dentist. The first one is HPSP, Health Professional Scholarship Program, which is military, so Army, Navy, Air Force, and it's 4 years or 3 years, and you apply, and if you get accepted, you enlist in the service, you're in active duty while you're in dental school, and you get paid to go to school, you get a living stipend, and they cover your cost of education. And then you repay them after with 3 years or 4 years of service as a dentist to people that are in that armed force, and you have different bases you pick from. And I've had some different guests on my podcast talk about these scholarships. If you want to know more, you can message me and I can send you the relevant episodes, or you can just look it up. And then the other one is NHSC, National Health Service Corps, and that is where you would work at a federally qualified health center for 3 years or 4 years after graduation, however much they pay for dental school. And again, they give you a living stipend on top of covering the cost of tuition. And then lastly, if you don't really want to commit to one of those, even after graduation, you could work at a federally qualified health center and apply for a state-funded loan repayment program. And again, not everyone gets them, but a lot of people do. And working in those public health settings often is salaried, so you have consistent income. You don't have to worry about production and doing a lot of work. You just show up and do your best for your patients, and they often have good benefits like actual medical, dental, all included, versus in a private practice, you usually have to fund that yourself based on however much you're making. So something to think about in terms of where you want to go to dental school, trying to find the one that's most cost effective for you. If you can get scholarships from the school for merit or for financial need, or if you just go to your in-state school like I did, that's saving me a ton of money. Even though I don't have any other forms of scholarship, I'm still saving a lot of money comparatively if I went out of state or went to private school. So just try to be strategic about that, because the one thing that's going to stress you out in the future is probably going to be money. So don't let it freak you out too much now, but ask yourself, would future me be happy with this decision, or am I going to regret it? And I know you never really know, but I think just at least being aware and making sure you're not being too reckless or taking out more than you need. Try to be smart with cost of living and live with roommates, keep your costs down. Remember that you're a student. Don't go on too many extravagant trips or anything, are all ways that you can be planning ahead and trying to make your future life a little bit better. Okay, let's finish off this episode. We're going to talk about those things that my fellow dental students have told me that they wish they knew in undergrad, or things they'd want to tell their younger self. So it's a combination of what they said and what I have to say. It's so easy to get caught up in the grind. I know you need good grades to get into dental school, but I'm telling you, if you create better balance in your schedule and you're more focused during your school time, you will be happier and you'll be able to make more fun memories to look back on. For me personally, and this other dental student, she said, I wish I knew how to manage my time better so I could have more fun. And I totally agree. I felt like I used studying as an excuse to kind of stay in my comfort zone, honestly stay in a bad relationship, not go out and socialize or challenge myself to do new things, like get a job on campus, join a student org that was just for fun, not for being pre-dental. So if you build your schedule with more stuff, more friends, more socializing, more fun hobbies, you're going to have less time for school, but you're also going to have less time to procrastinate. So the time you do have for school, I really think you're going to be more focused and do just as well, but have those fun memories to look back on. And that's one thing I regret about undergrad. And on a similar note, one of my friends that went to undergrad states away from her hometown said she wishes that she went home and visited family more often because school will always be there. And that's so true. You'll realize if you don't take time to reconnect with your people, you can kind of spiral out of control or just end up in a dark place with no relief or feeling like you kind of lack purpose. So connecting with your loved ones, that could be family or other people, really allows me, at least, to feel more grounded and remember what's important in my life. You are becoming a dentist, yes, to help patients, but it's going to give you the flexibility to live the life you want to live and be comfortable and happy. And if you're starting off in a dark place or just grinding yourself into the ground, into nothingness, imagine like what's next, you know? Like, things don't necessarily get easier or harder, they're just different. So you don't want to be always wondering like, what's next? Once this happens, then I'll be happy. Because I hate to break it to you, like, life doesn't get any easier later when you're a dental student or when you're a dentist. There's different good things, and like, yeah, I don't feel like I have to study as much, so maybe in that way it's easier, but there's so many new stresses and challenges too. So I really just want to encourage you to make the most of the time that you have with where you are and do your very best, but live in the present and try not to get too worked up about the future, because you're motivated, you're listening all the way through this podcast, like, you're going to do great, and you need to have some confidence in yourself that you're going to get there. And another dental student said, and it's a nice way to end off this little segment, is that dental school is hard, but you will still have time to have a life. So keep making time for the things that you enjoy when you're starting dental school, but I think that also goes for undergrad too. So I want to make sure I leave on that good note that, like, I'm not saying that life is miserable later and there's nothing to look forward to, because there certainly is, but I'm just encouraging you to be present and make the most of where you are right now, because you never get that time back. And I do have like semi-regrets personally about undergrad. I still enjoyed it, but I feel like it could have been better, you know? So I want to make sure that you all are making the most of your time and still killing it, still doing well in your classes, learning a lot, but knowing that being you and being the best version of yourself and improving yourself and really defining what your goal is as a future dentist, exactly what you want your life to look like, how dentistry is going to fit into that, what kind of dentistry you want to do, where you maybe want to work, things like that really give you a more clear vision of what you're working towards. And I think you'll find that you're a lot more motivated when you know exactly what you want out of life and you're not just shooting in the dark that you probably want to be a dentist and you have to get this GPA. And once you're in dental school, you'll figure it all out. The sooner you figure out what you want, the better. And that's going to change. So don't be too hard on yourself if your interests and your goals change. But just having something that you're working towards, I think, will give you a lot of peace of mind and a lot more motivation when school gets hard, because I know it did for me. Oh man, okay, these episodes of solo episodes, they're long for me to be talking. I get out of breath when I'm talking so much to you guys, but that is the end of this Monday's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next week with a guest that we have, and we're going to be talking about going outside of clinical dentistry per se and talking about clear aligners like Invisalign and how those can help a general dentist to be successful. So thank you all so much for listening, and I will talk to you next Monday.